happened to your...
It was rather anemic.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, do I start or do you start?
You can start.
Okay, good evening. I'm Terry, a recovered alcoholic. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put into our website and podcast. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you miss a study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along.
Keep going.
In accordance with our group conscience of October 16, 2023, we will also be posting our podcast on YouTube. We feel that this is an effective way to carry our message to those seeking recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous. Tonight's recap will start on page 39 and end on page 41. Our study tonight will start on page 41 and end on 43 at the end of the chapter.
And announcements. My name is Trish and I am an alcoholic. For home group members, we will have a home group meeting on, where is it? We will have a group conscience on March 18th. And so that'll be in another couple weeks. For our group officers, that means this weekend we will be having a meeting and we will get a time out to you within the next 24 hours. And that's all I've got.
One more thing. For everybody who is a registered home group member, and if you're not and you like what we have to offer in this group and you'd like to have a voice in what this group does and would like to become a home group member, just send Trish your email, sobriety date, and phone number, and we'll add you to the home group membership list. That will give you a voice in this group. And what we do is we do a lot of communication by email. So I will have the Treasury report and the GSR report ready and available to mail out, and Trish will have the minutes from the last from our last group conscience sent out in email as well. If you will take the time to read them, we can probably dispense with the reading of the minutes if everybody reads them, and we can make that motion rather than going through the 15 minutes of reading the minutes from the previous meeting, and stay within a little bit more time constraints. So thank you. We look forward to seeing you all.
So good evening, everyone. I am a recovered alcoholic and my name is Trish. Welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation, followed by our family's fog light prayer.
I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Terry. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you're unmuted and sharing, as to not distract others or yourself. We suggest we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. A friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order hands are raised.
Terry?
Okay.
Who are we waiting on?
Terry from the forwards?
Oh, I thought we were waiting for the monks.
Not yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. From the forward of the to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your breath and posture. Breathe in God and breathe out self.
It is time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And please join us in our family's foglight prayer. God, let your love shine through us like a foglight, so that those who are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Okay, let's have our secretary report. Come on in, Pinky.
Thank you, Miss Terry. My name is Alyssa, and I am your recovered alcoholic secretary. I have asked Kenny to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what exactly it means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Kenny.
You're muted, Kenny.
Here I go. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before we start the meeting. Feel free to bring a side dish to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our big book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse. And the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
I think the only one we have is Matt. Hi, Matt. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. And then the recovered alcoholics. These are your potential sponsors. Is there anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
I know somebody who's got 14 days.
14 days.
Yay, Kat.
Congratulations, Kat.
Thank you. Congratulations, Kat.
If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that we can send to you by buzzard mail. Delivery times questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo or PayPal posted in the chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website, posted in the chat. Thank you and see you next week.
Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you, Kenny, both for your service. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor the reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Okay, now before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 3. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 4. Please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And William is our traditionalist for the next 3 weeks. Hi, William.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Hello to everybody. Thanks for allowing me to be of service in Tradition 4. My name is William. I'm an alcoholic. Tradition 4. Each group should be autonomous except for matters affecting other groups as a whole. That's the short form of Tradition 4. In the long form of Tradition 4 is, with respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience. But when its plans concern the welfare of neighboring groups, also those groups ought to be consulted, and no group, regional committee, or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole. Without conferring with the trustees of the General Secretary Board on such issue, our common welfare is paramount. And I'm not an authoritative person on tradition, but how I learned about the tradition by doing service, in the group and outside of the group, When I came to Alcoholism Anonymous, like some people, say when it was in a tradition meeting, it was bored. I didn't know the difference between boards. I just knew I was in a safe place when I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And for that I'm grateful. And the tradition is something to protect the groups so that we may stay sober. The step is for the individual, and the tradition is for the group. And whenever you think of the tradition, you have to always to me coming with the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they found a solution to alcoholism. And then later on, what is a group? A group is two or more people coming together for sobriety. They help each other stay sober, and these groups start formulating like Ohio, New York, Connecticut, and all of a sudden they're just popping up all over the place. And right here in my borough, I was the New York at the group rep for a while. Right here in my borough, we had over 152 groups right here. And I could go to within walking distance from my house every day of the week and make a meeting. But being the drunk I was, I went 5 miles away from my house because I didn't want nobody to see me going into the groups. But the history is that when Bill first started with the tradition, he was putting them in in 1944. They started formulating it with the tradition, and they started putting it in the grapevine and circulating them around. Got some feedback from that. When he was doing that. And so after putting them in the grapevine and he started going to groups talking about them. And I just like to. Let me see. What Bill wrote a little note. What they call it here. What was said to him at the time he was walking around with these, trying to sell these, push these traditional things. He said, at this point, most of the group that was in trouble whenever he was trying to sell, they would listen, but the other groups who had whatever they had going on, they wasn't listening to what he was saying. So this is what he said happened at one point. At this point, I began to travel and talk a lot about the new principles. The member listened, but was obviously bored. After a while, I received letters like this: Bill, we would love to have you come and speak. Tell us where you used to hide your bottle, and tell us about that hot flash spiritual experience of yours. But please don't talk no more about those damn traditions. So it wasn't an easy thing. It's something that was through trial and error that they came up with the tradition. And I think this is the one that really going to send it off, come from the 12 and 12, that would add on to that so we can see where we at today. In the 12 and 12, they say, they talk about autonomous, and then all of a sudden they say, over the years, every conceivable deviation from our 12-step and tradition has been tried. That was sure to be since we are so large a band of ego-driven individuals, children of chaos, with defiantly plagued with every brand of fire, only to emerge unharmed. We think why these very deviations created a vast process of trial and error, which, under the grace of God, has brought us where we stand today. And today I'm in my living room, and I'm talking to people out in Tennessee, wherever you're from. We all coming together to stay sober. And now talk about tradition for each group is kind of maybe, except for matters that affect AA as a whole. And when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, so you had all type of groups. You had non-smoking groups, you had smoking groups, you had literature groups, you had women groups, you had all kinds of different types of groups, but you was welcome no matter what. Nobody could put you out of the group. Nobody would put you out. Matter of fact, one of the groups that I became a member of was a ladies group, and in the history of that group, they had a ladies meeting. This one particular guy looked in the meeting list book, and he saw a meeting close to his house, so he thought he would go to that group. So he went to that group for about 2 years. 2 years, and the ladies wouldn't put him out. He would sit by the door. He seen all the ladies, so he sit by the door and stuff. So after 2 years, they just decided to change it from a ladies group to change the name of the group. So that was that experience. But my other experience, when it was talking about affecting AA as a whole, my term during service below the group level was that in New York we have 5 different boroughs. We have a big place here. There's a lot of groups here. But in order for you to get your name, your group name put into the group, the list, the AA meeting list, you have to be vetted by the steering committee. So whenever you decide you want to open up a group, you have to send it to the steering committee. Then the steering committee will vet it. And then after that, you have to go to the delegates for them to confirm it. So they look out for the safety and make sure that all the bricks are in play so that whatever going on would not affect AA as a whole. And I've been there. I've seen some people put all kind of group name after people and all kind of stuff. And I even seen where people would come there, they'll send a group in, they want to open up a group in their house. So they wouldn't sanction nothing like that. After they vetted, they would kick those groups out and say, you have to, we're not kicking you out, but you have to give us something within the bylaws so we don't get the group before we put your name in the book. So now I'm not going to bore you too long with tradition. The tradition stays together. No big eyes are used in the group. We all know one. And the thing about it, whatever your understanding, whenever it's controlled by the group conscious, and a lot of group conscious I didn't like, but I still showed up because I think it helped me with my group. But the group is controlled by the group conscious. One vote, one individual. And they all, I'm not always liking a certain group conscious. I stay there. I still do service because I seen what it could do for me in the process. So this tradition 4 is to protect us from the individual inside and outside the forces that would harm New York and harm AA as a whole. So with that, I think that's enough for me because I got a whole lot of stuff over here, so I don't want to bore your time with it. And there's a lot about history and stuff like that. So that's it. Thank you so much for allowing me to do the service. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Good job.
Thank you.
Now it's time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Big Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as it's described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What follows is one of the things we often hear, along with what the Big Book has to say on the subject. But one of the things we hear a lot is there are no musts in the program. Nancy, can you come in and tell us what it says on page 144, paragraph 3?
Nancy Alcoholic. When the man is presented with this volume, it is best no one tell him he must abide by its suggestions.
Thank you.
As we study, please make use of pens, highlighters, and rulers so you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight, we're going to start the recap on page 39, which will be read tonight by, I had this written down.
By Lisa.
Lisa. And then followed by the study portion, read by, oh yeah, thank you.
My cat.
Cat. I'm sorry, I had it written down on something.
After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back where our study portion that Kat's going to read begins. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is that we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time. Through the question and answer format, notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the questions and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep, or you may see cute little puppy pop up in one of the windows to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, like with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous: sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
Okay, will you do this part, Trish, how we arrived, or Jamie?
I got it.
Thank you.
And how we arrived at this point. We didn't just randomly open the page tonight or open the book to page 39 and say, this is what we're reading tonight. This is a 94-week study which started back in January of 2020. And then it shut down because of COVID for a little while, came back as hybrid, and then it evolved into a 100% Zoom meeting, which is great because it allows all of us to be together from all different parts of the country and in some cases around the world. And we start on the title page with our first promise: how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And then we look at the preface, the forwards, doctor's opinion, and Bill's story. And Bill's story gives us a wonderful example of a classic 12-step call, as Ebby's talking to Bill. And then we go through all the other chapters. We explore our solution with There Is a Solution, more about alcoholism and we agnostics. Our program of action, how it works, into action and working with others. And we read our pre-Al-Anon chapters, Two Wives, The Family Afterward, and Two Employers. And then the chapter that's a gift from God, a vision for you. And there are people who I hear say the big book ends or the program ends at page 103, but they discount and don't include all that great information in those last 4 chapters: Two Wives, The Family Afterwards, Two Employers, and a Vision for You, because there's so much stuff in there that's vital and important to us still today. And then after we read the first 164 pages, we go into Dr. Bob's Nightmare with the same question and answer format, and we spend 2 weeks on the traditions. As a part of the study, when it's noted in a footnote, we go into the spiritual experience, but then our 94th week, we use that as a standalone week, just so that we can concentrate on the spiritual experience that we have as we take these steps. And then when we get to the end, we start all over. We're in our 4th year, but we're in our 3rd season of going through the book because of it being so long. It takes us more than a year to go through the book. And then when we get to the end, we start all over again.
Thank you. Okay, before we start the recap, we need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so we can put it onto our website and YouTube channel.
So, Lisa, could you come in now with our recap for our last week's study?
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa and I'm an alcoholic. Fred is partner in a well-known accounting firm. His income is good, he has a fine home, is happily married and the father of promising children of college age. He has so attractive a personality that he makes friends with everyone. If ever there was a successful businessman, it is Fred. To all appearance, he is stable. He is a stable, well-balanced individual. Yet he is alcoholic. We first saw Fred about a year ago in a hospital where he had gone to recover from a bad case of the jitters. It was his first experience of this kind, and he was much ashamed of it. Far from admitting he was alcoholic, he told himself he came to the hospital to rest his nerves. The doctor intimated strongly that he might be worse than he realized. For a few days he was depressed about his condition. He made up his mind to quit drinking altogether. It never occurred to him that perhaps he could not do so, in spite of his character and standing. Fred would not believe himself an alcoholic, much less accept a spiritual remedy for his problem. We told him what we knew about alcoholism. He was interested and conceded that he had some of the symptoms, but he was a long way from admitting that he could do nothing about it himself. He was positive that this humiliating experience, plus the knowledge he had acquired, would keep him sober the rest of his life. Self-knowledge would fix it. We heard no more of Fred for a while. One day we were told that he was back in the hospital. This time he was quite shaky. He soon indicated he was anxious to see us. The story he told is most instructive, for here was a chap absolutely convinced he had to stop drinking, who had no excuse for drinking, who exhibited splendid judgment and determination in all his other concerns, yet was flat on his back nevertheless. Let him tell you about it. I was much impressed with what you fellows said about alcoholism, and I frankly did not believe it would be possible for me to drink again. I rather appreciated your ideas about the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink. But I was confident it could not happen to me after what I had learned. I reasoned I was not so far advanced as most of you fellows, that I had been usually successful in licking my other personal problems, and that I would therefore be successful where you men failed. I felt I had every right to be self-confident, that it would be only a matter of exercising my willpower and keeping on guard. In this frame of mind, I went about my business, and for a time, all was well. I had no trouble refusing drinks, and began to wonder if I had not been making too hard work of a simple matter. One day I went to Washington to present some accounting evidence to a government bureau. I had been out of town before during this particular dry spell, so there was nothing new about that. Physically, I felt fine. Neither did I have any pressing problems or worries. My business came off well. I was pleased and knew my partners would be too. It was the end of a perfect day, not a cloud on the horizon. I went to my hotel and leisurely dressed for dinner. As I crossed the threshold of the dining room and the thought came to mind that it would be nice to have a couple of cocktails with dinner. That was all, nothing more. I ordered a cocktail in my meal. Then I ordered another cocktail. After dinner, I decided to take a walk. When I returned to the hotel, it struck me a highball would be fine before going to bed. So I stepped into the bar and had one. I remember having several more that night and plenty the next morning. I have a shadowy recollection of being in an airplane bound for New York and of finding a friendly taxi cab driver at the landing field instead of my wife. The driver escorted me about for several days. I know little of where I went or what I had said and did. Then came the hospital with unbearable mental and physical suffering.
I am Kat. I'm an alcoholic. As soon as I regained my ability, to think, I went carefully over that evening in Washington. Not only had I been off guard, I had made no fight whatever against the first drink. This time, I had not thought of the consequences at all. I had commenced to drink as carelessly as though the cocktails were ginger ale. I now remembered what my alcoholic friends had told me, how they prophesied that if I had an alcoholic mind, the time and place would come. I would drink again. They had said that though I did raise a defense, it would one day give way before some trivial reason for having a drink. Well, just that did happen and more, for what I had learned of alcoholism did not occur to me at all. I knew from that moment that I had an alcoholic mind. I saw that willpower and self-knowledge would not help in those strange mental blank spots. I had never been able to understand people who said that a problem had them hopelessly defeated. I knew then it was a crushing blow. 2 of the members of Alcoholics Anonymous came to see me. They grinned, which I didn't like so much, and then asked me if I thought myself alcoholic, and if I were really licked this time. I had to concede both propositions. They piled on me heaps of evidence to the effect that an alcoholic mentality, such as I had exhibited in Washington, was a hopeless condition. They cited cases out of their own experience by the dozen. This process snuffed out the last flicker of conviction that I could do the job myself. Then they outlined the spiritual answer and program of action, which 100 of them had followed successfully. Though I had been only a nominal churchman, their proposals were not intellectually hard to swallow. But the program of action, though entirely sensible, was pretty drastic. It meant I would have to throw several lifelong conceptions out of the window. That was not easy. But the moment I made up my mind to go through with the process, I had the curious feeling that my alcoholic condition was relieved, as in fact it proved to be. Quite as important was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all my problems. I have since been brought into a way of living infinitely more satisfying and, I hope, more useful than the life I lived before. My old manner of life was by no means a bad one, but I would not exchange its best moments for the worst I have now. I would not go back to it even if I could. Fred's story speaks for itself. We hope it strikes home to thousands like him. He had felt only the first nip of the ringer. Most alcoholics have to be pretty badly mangled before they really commence to solve their problems. Many doctors and psychiatrists agree with our conclusions. One of these men, staff member of a world-renowned hospital, recently made the statement to some of us. What you say about the general hopelessness of the average alcoholic's plight is, in my opinion, correct. As to 2 of you men, whose stories I have heard, there is no doubt in my mind that you were 100% hopeless, apart from divine help. Had you offered yourselves as patients at this hospital, I would not have taken you, if I had been able to avoid it. People like you are too heartbreaking. Though not a religious person, I have profound respect for the spiritual approach in such cases as yours. For most cases, there is virtually no other solution. Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones. We will ask the questions from our script by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. The answers to the questions will be sentence by sentence coming directly out of this week's study, beginning with the first sentence and ending with the last one. Okay, my order tonight is Kenny, Jim, Susan, Jamie, and William. Thank you all so much for volunteering. Okay, so we're starting on page 41. And as soon as I regained. Okay, so we'll start with you, Kenny. As soon as his mind cleared, what did he do?
As soon as I regained my ability to think, I went carefully over that evening in Washington.
Jim, had he resisted the first drink?
Not only had I been off guard, I had made no fight whatever against the first drink.
Perfect. Susan, was he conscious of the fact that he had taken a drink?
This time I had not thought of the consequences at all.
And I'm coming in with a comment. Have you ever found yourself drinking and couldn't remember where you were or what you were doing when you took the first drink? Is it possible that before the first drink that we have mental blackouts or mental blank spots before the physical blackout we get from drinking?
Jamie, how was he drinking?
I had commenced to drink as carelessly as though the cocktails were ginger ale.
William, what did he remember his AA friends had prophesied? There's two sentences.
I now remember what my alcoholic friend had told me. I prophesied that if I had an alcoholic night, the time and place would come and I would drink again.
One more sentence.
One more sentence. They
Yes,
had said
please.
that though I did raise a defense, it would one day give way before some trivial reason for having a drink. Thank you.
Thank you. Kenny, we're back to you. This is a two-part question. Were they correct in their prophecy, and what did they say would happen in spite of his determination to not drink?
Well, just that did happen, and more, and more. For what I have learned of alcoholism did not occur to me at all. I knew
Thank
from
you,
the
Jim. No, that's all. We're at Jim now. Thank you, Kenny. Okay, Jim, from his experience, what did he come to know?
I knew from that moment that I had an alcoholic mind.
Thank you. Susan, what did he learn about self-knowledge and willpower?
I saw that willpower and self-knowledge would not help in those strange mental blank spots.
Thank you. Hey, Jamie, this is a two sentences. What else did he come to understand?
I had never been able to understand people who said that a problem had them hopelessly defeated. I knew then.
Thank you. William, how did the newly acquired knowledge affect him?
It was a crushing blow.
Yes, it was. Thank you. Okay, Kenny, who came to see him?
two of the members of Alcoholics Anonymous came to see me.
Okay, Jim, you got a three-parter. What was the first thing they did? What did Fred think of what they did? And what two questions did they ask Fred?
Two of the members of Alcoholics, they grinned, which I did not like so much, and then asked me if I thought myself alcoholic and if I were really licked this time. I
Okay,
had to
Susan.
concede both.
Oh, no, that's good. Okay, Susan,
Yep.
to what did he concede?
I had to concede both propositions.
Jamie, what did they pile on him? 2 sentences.
They piled on me heaps of evidence to the effect that an alcoholic mentality, such as I had exhibited in Washington, was a hopeless condition. They cited cases out of their own experience by the dozen.
William, what did this do for him?
This process snuffed out of the last flick of conviction that I could be the jar myself.
Was he admitting complete and utter defeat here? From page 30, we learned we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholic. This was the first step in recovery.
Kenny, once he admitted defeat, what did they tell him?
Then they outlined a spiritual answer and a program of action which 100 of them had followed successfully.
Jim, did he have difficulty accepting the concept of the program?
Though I had been only a nominal churchman, their proposals were not intellectually hard to swallow.
Susan, how did he feel about putting the concepts into action?
But the program of action, though entirely sensible, was pretty drastic.
Yes, it was. Jamie, what would he have to do?
It meant I would have to throw several lifelong conceptions out of the window.
Okay. William, was it going to be easy?
That was not easy.
Okay, Kenny, what happened to Fred as soon as he made up his mind to adopt the program?
But the moment I made up my mind to go through with the process, I had a curious feeling that my alcoholic condition was relieved, as in fact proved to be.
Jim, what else of very important nature did he discover?
Quite as important was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all my problems.
Is this our spiritual solution?
Susan, what kind of life did his decision bring him into?
I have since been brought into a way of living infinitely more satisfying and I hope more useful than the life I lived before.
Jamie, another 2-part question. What was his old life like, and what would he not trade for?
My old manner of life was by no means a bad one, but I would not exchange its best moments for the worst I have now.
Great, that's fabulous. William, would he have liked to return to his own way of living?
I would not go back to even if I could.
That's right, thank you. Kenny, what does Fred's story do?
Fred's story speaks for itself.
Jim, what are our hopes?
We hope it strikes home to thousands like him.
Susan, had he severely suffered from alcoholism?
He had felt only the first nip of the ringer.
Jamie, do most alcoholics get off so easy?
Most alcoholics have to be pretty badly mangled before they really commence to solve their problems.
Okay, William, how many doctors and psychiatrists feel about our conclusions?
Many doctors and psychiatrists agree with our conclusion.
Thank you. Okay, Kenny, you're going to read the rest of the paragraph. What did one such professional say?
One of these men, staff members of a world-renowned hospital, recently made this statement to us. What you say about the general hopelessness of the average alcoholic life is, in my opinion, correct. As to as to two of you men whose story I've heard, there's no doubt in my mind that you were 100% hopeless. Apart from divine help, and you offered yourself as my patient at my hospital, I would not have taken you if I had been able to avoid it. People like you are too heartbreaking. Though not a religious person, I have profound respect for the spiritual approach in such cases as yours. For most cases, there's virtually no other solution.
Thank you. Jim, once more, what?
Once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink.
Thank you. Susan, can human beings provide the alcoholics a defense from the next drink?
Except in a few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense.
Thank you. Jamie, what is an alcoholic's only certain defense?
His defense must come from a higher power. Boy, howdy.
Boy, howdy is right. That went really nicely. Thank you so much.
Excellent job,
All
everybody.
right, readers.
Great job, Terry. And for everybody who doesn't know, this was Terry's first time with questions, and she nailed it.
Well done, Terry.
It's kind of nerve-wracking at first, but I got in the flow. Okay, is it my turn or yours, Trish?
Your turn.
Okay, we will now open the floor for sharing. If you have experience with a portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. A friendly reminder, as we share, absence of profanity offends no one. We are open for comment, questions, and observations based on what we just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Okay, the floor is now open. Oh, there's a hand, Lisa.
I guess
You
I'll
may
get
share.
first. I am Lisa, I'm an alcoholic. Oh yeah, this reminds me of me in my mind. You know, this time around I'm learning about my alcoholic mind. I didn't have a clue. You know, I went to meetings off and on for many years, but I never heard or wanted to. I didn't go to the right meetings, whatever it was. I wasn't ready. You know, this time around I'm learning so much about the thinking, and one of the things I was thinking of hearing this was a year ago, this coming April 1st, I moved. It was my moving day. And, you know, a few months before that, I got away from meetings. I stopped reaching out, and I had no defense. And the day of my move, I had a year and almost 4 months sober, and I found some nips, and I had no defense. You know, nothing was wrong. I mean, I had a lot of work ahead of me, but that was really nothing new to me. You know, I have no problem with that stuff, but just no defense, and like nothing. I just like it was another day. You know, I'll start up tomorrow, and it just, you know, I look back and I know exactly why. I need to stay in AA. I need to stay connected. You know, I need to be reminded. And like every morning, and I hear in my morning meeting a lot is, you know, I gotta like renew every morning I gotta do this again. I gotta get my mind straight. I gotta remember about my thinking and where it can take me. You know, and learning the spiritual principles and you know, and it's starting to help me. I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to feel some sort of peace in my life, and I never had. You know, and going back to that April 1st, I didn't have a clue, you know, and you know, and when it says when he's starting this process, and I remember when I made that decision this time, you know, there was a relief, you know, things could be different. It doesn't have to be the same thing over and over and over again. And yeah, I always had that, you know, the self-knowledge and the self-will, you know, I was always kind of, you know, was kind of a loner and did things on my own. And so that may have played a role, you know, why it was really tough for me. But yeah, that self-knowledge and self-will, and that did nothing for me that day. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying learning about this and reading this book and learning about how my mind works and how it got me every single time. And I'm just glad that I found something different. And that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. Anthony, you're up.
Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm an alcoholic. Well, thanks to the group for their service today, and it was an awesome meeting, and I've been on and off, but mostly it was here listening. So I wanted to share, you know, the other day a friend of mine, I know him since '87, he says, Anthony, I pray for you, and he touched me when he told me that. That's a gift of sobriety. If I wasn't free of alcohol, I wouldn't have been able to felt that. When he touched me, he said it a couple of times. A good friend of mine, one of my coworkers that I retired with, and he's a good man. Today I was working, there was a lady in front of my desk. I do first responder work at work, and she had a problem with an umbrella, and then she knows I was watching, and I was looking, and she couldn't get the end part of the handle up on the umbrella to lock. So I looked at it, and I think she was holding the button down to release it and then trying to lock it, but it wouldn't lock. So after certain turns, and then I said, okay, this is how you hear it, and then it locked, you hear the click. Then she tried a couple of times, she couldn't get it. And then finally she got it. And she laughed and I laughed. And I helped somebody, you know. If I wasn't sober, I wouldn't be able to do that. She wanted to give me a few dollars. I can't do that. I'm a first responder on the post. I can't do that. I said, thank you, miss. I haven't had that gesture to me in many, many years. Not that I can think of. But I was just providing a service for her. And I was touched by that. My daughter, her birthday's coming up this month. She texted me, she said she loves me. And I said, I love you too, and I'm proud of her. And she's doing some really good stuff in her life. And I'm so proud of her. Her birthday's coming up at the end of the month. I'm going to take the day off and celebrate with her and my wife and her birthday. If I wasn't sober, I wouldn't be able to do that either. So I thank my higher power for the gift of sobriety and the emotional sobriety that I have, for some of the stories that I just shared in my life. I was looking forward to coming to this meeting. A friend of mine reminded me and sent me the link, and I thank him for his friendship and his love and service to me in my recovery. If I wasn't sober, I won't be able to do that either. But one more gift and I'll shut up. I'm 68 years old now, and I've been coming around for a little bit. By God's grace and mercy, I'll be 69 in April. And if I wasn't sober, I won't be able to do that either. So I thank the higher power for giving me and other people a gift designed for living, to live a program sober and free of alcohol and anything else of that matter that might destroy me. So I thank my higher power for the gift of sobriety and the gift to live free, you know, my freedom. A few other things I got to work on, I've been working on, thank God. I got to work on my tardiness. I got to get to the job tomorrow on time. I wasn't late, but I was planning to close. I got to stop putting the alarm on snooze. Oh, Lord. Small things, you know, that's a big one. Small things. I got stuff to do. I'm a work in progress. But if it wasn't the people, a lot of people in the beginning when I started a while ago, they passed on, they rest in peace too, and I will never forget them. They showed me the path, how to achieve sobriety. With that, I close. Blessings to all. I'm Anthony. I'm an alcoholic from New York. Thank you, guys.
Anthony, is that Kat or Trish with the hand up? Kat.
I am Kat, and I'm an alcoholic. And I think Trish read Complete and Utter Defeat. I mean, I've been in and out of AA for decades. I did have some time back in the day, my early 20s, but I tell you, this time I was really licked completely. And I prayed and I asked God for help, and about a month later, I found some people that have basically saved my life. And once I did admit complete and utter defeat, because this time I truly have, after decades of trying to do it on my own and thinking I could control it, I don't have the desire to drink, and that in itself is a miracle. And I'm just grateful to be here today and that I have 2 weeks sober. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Congratulations. Oh, there's Jamie. I see your hand. Come on in, Jamie.
My hand is hidden in all the painting on the wall. Hi, family. My name's Jamie. Very grateful, recovered alcoholic. I'm going to start with this. As I regained my ability to think, I went carefully over that evening in Washington. Not only had I been off guard, I made no fight whatever against the first drink. And then it goes down to the place where he remembered meeting a friendly taxi cab driver rather than his wife. Gee, is it possible that Fred was a blackout drinker? And that he, in one of his blackouts, maybe he called his wife and she said something like, you better call a cab when you get home because I won't be there. And in that blackout, he continued to be shuttled around for days. Anybody relate to any of those types of behaviors? Here's something else to ponder. That self-knowledge would fix it, right? And that's all we need to know. Anybody after 2 or 3 weeks in Alcoholics Anonymous say, all right, I know what I need. I know what I need to stay sober now. You guys don't have anything to offer me anymore. I can do this all by myself. It's funny how frequently that happens in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's two words that shut my hearing devices off automatically when I say them. When somebody's talking to me and I say, I know, it instantly shuts down my ability to hear what it is you're trying to tell me. I know. Yeah, I know. And I'm incapable of learning what I need to learn. I love this chapter. I absolutely love this chapter. Looking for a particular passage here. So nowhere in this did they tell him what he had to do. How many of us come into Alcoholics Anonymous and say, I'm not going to listen to anything you people tell me I got to do? And how many of us actually go into sponsorship telling people what we think they got to do? That's not what the book guides us to do. The chapter on working with others tells them that we tell them what we did, but we never tell them what they have to do. And we present the information for them. We are there to help them make the self-discoveries within themselves, to find those answers within themselves. But it's not my place to tell anybody what to do. I might make suggestions, but nobody has to do it. And that was part of our That Ain't in the Book tonight as well. So I absolutely love this part. And it's in the middle of the page. Let's see. They piled on me heaps of evidence to the effect that an alcoholic mentality, such as I had exhibited in Washington, was hopeless condition. They cited cases out of their own experience by the dozen. This process snuffed out the last flicker of conviction that I could do the job myself. It goes on to say, then they outlined the spiritual answer, a program of action which 100 of them had followed successfully. Isn't that amazing? One man becomes willing to follow a spiritual program of action that only 100 people had taken, and yet had been successful, because his own proof was in his own pudding. He couldn't do it himself. And a little farther down the page, but the moment I made up my mind to go through with the process, I had a curious feeling that my alcoholic condition was relieved, as in fact it proved to be. Quite as important was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all of my problems. There's a place in our book, I'll give you a hint, it's on page 64, and while it is dealing with resentment in that part of the book, it talks about when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. I got to Alcoholics Anonymous with all kinds of problems. I got here with alcoholism, drug addiction, pretty much a psychopath, and certainly emotionally disturbed in many, many areas of my life. In other words, I was an emotional bucket of crap. But as a result of taking and following the process that developed a spiritual condition, the spiritual malady has been overcome. If the process of taking the steps will help me overcome alcoholism, then why wouldn't it help me overcome every other spiritual malady in my life? All of my defects of character, my obesity, all of my 7 deadly sins, every defect of character that I have, diabetes, all of those things are rooted in spiritual malady. Maybe cancer isn't, maybe a brain tumor isn't, but there are certain things that my own mental state of mind are rooted in spiritual malady. So why wouldn't a spiritual program of action work on them too? I don't know about you guys, but I go to meetings with people who are sober 25, 35 years that still struggle and talk about the struggle on a daily basis of the struggle with alcoholism. And I oftentimes have to ask myself the question, why? And the only conclusion that I can come to is that maybe we are shortchanging ourselves on following the pathway that develops that spiritual condition. That's the only answer I have for it. And I'm certainly not better than any other human being, but what I was taught was that if I continually live in this cycle, repeated cycle and continued cycle of living in this process of taking the steps, that I will find a life that is incredibly acceptable to me. And that has been my experience. I have the most amazing life. I was on a cruise this last week, and while I had the joy and honor of going to all of the Friends of Bill's meeting and with my big book and basically chairing those meetings, the part of the boat that I spent the most time on was in the smoking section with the hard, heavy drinkers, talking to them and just establishing friendships. You see, I'm protected and I am placed in the position of neutrality because of the spiritual solution that Alcoholics Anonymous has offered me. And the result of that is that while those people didn't give up drinking over the time we spent on that cruise together, what we did do is, even though they were drinking and I wasn't, we spiritually bonded on so many different levels. And I have to remember what our responsibility statement says. When anyone, anywhere, reaches out for help, I want the hand of AA to be there. They were reaching out for other problems in their lives, but the hand of AA still got to be there. And I didn't have to talk AA to them, even though they knew I was in the program. We just talked about life. And that's the beauty of it. So like him, quite as important was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all of my problems. Thank you. God bless. Glad you're all here.
Thanks, Jamie. Jim, it's your turn. You're muted, Jim.
Yeah, there we go. All right, hi, I'm Jim, and I am alcoholic. Yeah, you know, as we go through these readings, I like to highlight stuff that applies directly to me, and I see more and more of it. And you know, every time I've read this section, it's like bullets. You know, I say this all the time. But, you know, like not only had I been off guard, I had made no fight whatever against the first one. This time, I had not thought of all the consequences at all. Boy, how many times I did that. You know, I've been coming around the AA for a long time, and this just, you know, I was never getting it. This is always happening to me. You know, you know, it's what I had learned about alcoholism did not occur to me at all. You know, from the very beginning, you know, I didn't realize that I had that alcoholic mind. And you know, I was hopelessly defeated before I knew it. I didn't even know it, how bad I was defeated. You know, when I came to the program, you know, they told me about the spiritual answer in the program of action. You know, and you know, in my meager way, I thought I was doing it, but you know, looking at this now, I come to realize I was either looking for the spiritual answer or the program of action. I was never doing both at the same time. I just never made that connection, you know. And it just for me, it doesn't work that way. It's got to be all or nothing, you know. It took me a long time to realize, you know, that spiritual principles would solve all my problems. And, you know, as I came to really believe what's going on here, because I am totally defeated this time, you know, it's the general hopelessness of the average alcoholic's plight is, for me, correct. It says, in my opinion, but that's for me, it's correct. Because I am 100% hopeless apart from divine help. I really am. There is virtually no other solution. Because I have no effective mental defense against the first drink. I've got a few notes in the side here, but I'll spare you those. Yeah, my defense must come from a higher power. You know? And this time around, I put the spiritual answer and the program of action together, and it's seriously working for me. You know, I'm doing a lot of other work on myself also, and I thought it was always tied in together. I thought that, you know, if I went to like therapy and work through these problems, you know, that's going to help me. It's going to cure my alcoholism. It has nothing to do with my alcoholism. These are just things that are going to make me feel better to get through the time I'm spending getting myself sober. Because for me, getting sober is not easy. You know, it says I would have to throw several lifelong conceptions out the window. You know, for me, one of my lifelong conceptions was that everybody drank. Everybody used drugs. Everybody. And this, you know, this is my experience. When I was growing up, everybody in my life was drinking and using drugs. Everybody used violence. Everybody did all these things. You know, they were all alcoholics and addicts. Right from everyone in my family, everyone I knew, right up to the police. You know, because I witnessed these things. I saw the police drinking and using drugs. I thought everybody did it. It was just the natural thing to do. So, you know, with a lifelong conception like that, it's, Jesus, how difficult can it be for me to stop? It's really one of the major blocking points in my sobriety is this conception I have that this is what everybody does. Why shouldn't I be able to do it? You know? And I always miss the part about, you know, having the alcoholic mind. You know, the physical part of it. It took me a long, I didn't realize until about a year or so ago, how many times I read it in this book about the physical compulsion to drink. Once I take that first drink, I need another one. I need another one. I need another one. And but I can't stay away from that first drink because I have an alcoholic mind. Everything I could learn in this book within just a matter of minutes can go right out the door. All you gotta do is put that drink in front of me. You know, once I take that one drink, it's over. Geez, you know, I love the way we go over this sentence by sentence and then we recap everything line by line with the questions, because it really gives me the time to look at these and apply these things to myself, because I've read this a million times. Sometimes I make a little note here and there, and sometimes my sponsor would say, well, this is step 1, and this is part 2 of step 1, and blah, blah. None of that helped me. What helps me is looking at this information and applying it to myself to the best of my ability, and talking with my sponsor about it, and talking with other people in AA. You know, I gotta keep it up front. I gotta, I gotta keep that honestness in me. I'm trying to work on that, being honest with people in the program. It's like you were saying, Jamie, I used to say that all the time. I know. And I still find myself saying it sometimes when I'm speaking with my sponsor. And when I catch myself, I tell myself, just be quiet and listen. Just be quiet and listen. Because I need to learn things. I don't need to say anything, even though I'm going on and on now, But one thing I did want to say, Jamie, you mentioned about when he meets the cab driver instead of his wife when he gets off the plane. And I hate to say this, but if that was me, I'm sure I would have probably avoided my wife and found a friendly cab driver instead of my wife. So, but that's just me. All right, I've gone on long enough. Thanks for letting me babble at you.
We can only speculate, Jim. We don't know the whole story.
Okay, William, you're up.
My name is William Alcoholic. I'm still recovering. I'm still clearing up. And the thing that that brought me back, and I remember when I was new and came into Alcoholics Anonymous. He said 2 of the members of Alcoholics Anonymous came to me. They grinned it. And boy, do that used to get me whenever I be talking and people start grinning and all that kind of stuff. And it would give me some kind of emotion. Most of the time with anger, what's so funny about that? Why laughing at me? And I didn't know they was laughing at themselves because they had been there too, until I've been sober for a while and find out the root of my disease was selfish and self-centered. It wasn't about me. It's about their experiences I was sharing and stuff that they would do that, And this other part down here where everybody said quite as important to discover that the spiritual principle will solve all of my problems. And I remember when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous, because all my problems was I went to the bar, and the old time would give me something real simple, they say only 10% was the drinking. The other 90% was your emotion problem. The only problem was the drinking. The other just situational stuff. So I didn't buy into that, but as I stay sober, I began to see how they were doing the drinking. They prayed about alcohol. They came to me and they talked about alcohol. That was the most. It took me a long time to understand that. And anyhow, whenever they begin to do that about other issues, I get some type of. And the other part where he was talking about he had only went. Listen to this. He brought me when he's told us so. He said we hope to strike home 2,000 like him. He had felt only the first nip of the rain. Most alcohol had to be badly mangled. So I know I would have put his name up there, because him to go back and remember the next day what had happened the day before, he's okay. I'm still remembering stuff that happened in 20, 30, I'd say 40 years. I've been sober a few now, but 30, 40 years ago, I'm still coming to clarity on things that happened, you know. But I truly believe because of that God don't give us no more than we can have. I don't know what would have happened if all that stuff that was built at one time. So I keep coming and keep learning about the behavior. While I'm here, what I learn about the behavior is an equal opportunity behavior. No matter where you're from, what you look like, whenever you start talking about the behavior, I identify. So thanks for allowing me to be here with you tonight. And I could continue to come back because I like the setting that we do here, you know, and that's part of the tradition we're talking about. I like to be constrained how we do it here. So every Tuesday I try to make it my business to be here.
Thanks, William. Xavier, your turn.
There you go, Xavier, recovered alcoholic. Super grateful to be here. Sorry I came late. Glad I got to hear a lot of the shares and the end of the reading. Yeah, and just briefly looking at the reading, you know, just another great example of the obsession of how it trumps willpower and, you know, the insanity of my alcoholism, realizing that I'm powerless over it. And, you know, recently, you know, life has hit our family pretty hard, and then today I just had, like, you know, I'm sober and everything, just emotionally had it almost like an emotional relapse, like I have an emotional hangover. My ego just took over today. My niece was hanging out while my wife was at the hospital with her mother-in-law who had a stroke, and my niece acted up and I fired her, and I felt so good, and I felt like super high. And sorry, the girl just walked in. And I felt this incredible. But the problem with that is I'm the guy that, you know, those are the kind of things that'll cause a guy like me to relapse if I hang on to my ego. So sometimes I feel sad that I can't hold on to my ego because it feels very justified and it feels good. But I don't want to drink again. So I'm forced to, not out of goodness or out of anything, but literally because I want to survive, I have to lean on my program and apply it to my life. So, you know, it's good to call my sponsor, tell myself, do some concept inventory, and then, you know, reassess where I'm falling short of my program and where I went wrong as far as actions that I took today. And what that looks like in the future, you know, doing more daily reading, doing more nightly inventory, you know, sponsoring more guys, whatever. But I think after an emotional relapse like today, I'm grateful that I can lean on this program and not my problem, and I can kind of reassess, like, you know, what's causing me to get off that theme of being in connection with a higher power. Because when that happens, you know, I have a much higher risk of drinking that particular day. So that's all I got. I'll pass. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Xavier. And Kat, you're up.
Nope,
No,
it's me.
Trish?
I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic.
Okay, I'm looking at an old message.
That's okay.
Hi, Trish. You're up.
Hi, Terry. Hi, everybody. I was one of those that the book talks about in this section where, what does it say? I hadn't been bit by the nip of the ringer quite as much as other people had. And that made it really hard for me to be convinced that I was an alcoholic, because I was comparing my insides to other people's outsides and listening to their stories and comparing. And I ended up picking up after only about 3 months because I wasn't convinced, but after that night I was. And I know what Fred was thinking of when he said they grinned, and I didn't like it much because that's where I was that night. And it wasn't so much that they came to see me, but one of them came to pick me up after the fact and brought me to a meeting. And a whole bunch of them grinned. And we talked after the meeting, and you know, I had been given the heaps of evidence prior to me picking up. And I had that self-knowledge and that self-awareness, or I thought I did. And was convinced, I'm here, I'm not going to do anything, even though down in the depth of my soul, I really wasn't convinced. But after that night, I was. And that was when I realized that I had to concede, I had to surrender to the spiritual solution, I had to surrender to the disease aspect. That I was an alcoholic, it wasn't anybody else's fault, I couldn't blame it on genetics because I was trying to do that. And regardless of anything else in my life, I was an alcoholic, and that AA was the only place where I was going to get any better. And you know, I wasn't as badly mangled as some people were. But I understood that night, or that last week, the hopelessness and the progression, seeing the progression in myself, knowing where I was going, knowing that I didn't like where I was, but I had to keep picking up each day just to get by, just to wean off. And I had to let go of that self-power. I had to let go of that self-knowledge because neither one helped. And I had to be willing to let go of that self-reliance. And while I was nowhere near being God-reliant at that point, I started becoming AA-reliant because I knew AA had a solution for me. And I was willing to finally concede that I was an alcoholic and that I was licked. Complete and utter defeat, yeah. I still fought it, but I knew I couldn't pick up, and I knew I couldn't drink again. And then getting that relationship with my God, getting that higher power, where my defense came from, and the realization that the spiritual principles could solve my problems. And I didn't have to rely on me to solve those problems. And being able to listen to other people who told me where they had been and where they came from. And taken on the program of action. Got involved in service right away. Got involved in steps right away, stepped away from steps, kept involved in service, but keeping that God reliance once I had it, and then building that God reliance. That spirituality is what saved my ass. And I'm aware of that today. And I know that, you know, I thought I had all the power. I thought I had all the answers. I finally had to concede that I had no power. And thinking I had all the power was my problem. And then I had to come to rely on that power greater than myself for the solution, because I was not the solution, my God was. And I had to find my God in these rooms and in these steps. Thanks.
Thanks, Trish. Okay, Kathy.
Hi everybody, Kathy still alcoholic. And every morning I wake up with untreated alcoholism because they told me that it's a 24-hour program. So I have to do all the things that I did in the very beginning. If I want to do, to keep what I have to keep doing what I've been doing. And I haven't always done that, and when I don't, I may be abstinent, but I would not say that I was sober. And there's a huge difference there. And the difference, I think, is a higher power. I used to treat God like Santa Claus, you know. I need you, I want you, I want this, I want to do that, I want to do that, I need this, I need that. And Alcoholics Anonymous taught me how to treat not only the people in my life, but the higher power in my life, and to bring that higher power into my life as a way of life. And I think that also too, watching people who had time go out and come back, it reminds me that sometimes the longer you have sober, the closer you are to a drink. If you get back if you step away from the meetings and helping another alcoholic, and you get busy with the life that Alcoholics Anonymous gives you, you can become pretty arrogant, I think. And they say that a relapse happens when you start doing the 12 steps in reverse. You know, you stop making meetings, and then you stop praying. Then here come your character defects, you know, and then you're not taking your own inventory. And before you know it, you know, your life is unmanageable and there's nothing left to do. So I try to keep doing what I've always done, and that's pray and make meetings and talk to other alcoholics during the day and stay connected, because the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is beautiful and wonderful, but you need the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous to help you with the program. You can't do the program by yourself. You need the fellowship. I need the fellowship. The opposite of addiction, they say, is connection. I believe that. So, thank you for helping me stay sober today. And I'll pass with that.
Thanks, Kathy. Pinky, you're up.
Thanks, Terry. My name's Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. Thank you for the study tonight and the reading. You know, I never, of course, when we're in it, I never realized how powerful it was over me. I remember the weekend. I remember why I drank that weekend. I was drinking at someone. I never thought of the consequences. Never. And I'm commenting on that first paragraph where we started, because I'm always told that if it's in italics, it's important. That is important. And then, I woke up on a cement slab in my own vomit. I didn't think I could get much lower. Unfortunately, since then, I haven't had to go back to that. After I was released from the surveillance of their supervision of the law, that the thought came back, right? But that what you guys told me about a head full of A and a belly full of booze, no, I was right back in here the next day. Actually, I was calling you after I did it, and I haven't had to touch a drink since. This is a spiritual program. Today I understand that, because that is my experience. It's the same God that I grew up with, but today I have an intimate two-way relationship with him. life is manageable today. I'm baffled right now because I don't know how I'm making through this time in my life, but I am. And it's because of these steps. You know, step one, I am completely powerless over alcohol. And with alcohol in my life, it's unmanageable. You know, I do have a higher power that's returned me to sanity. And I only get to keep that for today. And I only get to keep that if I continue to practice these principles in all of my affairs. I know that today. And I don't have to do it perfectly, because I have the tools that I'm given right here to reflect on my day. What could I have done better? What did I do that was good? You know, there's always opportunity to do something different, to be better. And I never had that mentality before because I always felt like I had to be a certain way. I had to do things perfectly. I had to, you know, perform a certain way. But today I can just be me. I can be who God created me to be, and I can be happy, joyous, and free. 2 weeks ago, I was able to go. I went to a concert with two of my best friends. That was the first time that I was able to be out in public, not worry about who or where we were going, like who was going to be there. And I had fun, and I belly laughed, and it was like I felt like I was 8 years old again. I never would have had that opportunity if I didn't have this opportunity. Or, excuse me, I never would have been able to experience that without this opportunity. And, you know, I've been dry in these almost 4 years that I've really put my own effort into AA. Because in 2013, my family tried to impose it upon me, and well, the book tells us what, warns us about that. And I don't know, like, I will fight tooth and nail to keep this. Because even in the midst of the storm, everything's going to be okay because God's got me. He's within me and He is all around me. He shows up in each and every one of you. And I'm just so extremely grateful for that because I never thought I was worth it. But today I know that I am. And I'm just thankful that I came to that surrender before it was too late, because I get to enjoy life today. And I get to enjoy life today. So thank you for being a part of my sobriety. I love you all.
Alyssa, it looks like it's time for us to close our meeting tonight. It was a pleasure being of service. So Trish, do you want to read the closing and close us out?
I would love to read out the closing, and then you get to close us out.
I do?
You do. So from page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself for God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him, and I lost my place, and to your others, and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Okay, so we have a special way of closing out in our meeting. I don't see anybody that's new here, but, oh, Matt is. Since we can't hold hands, we like to hold our hands up so that we're all joined together. Okay, after a moment of silence for the alcoholic out there, I don't know the stats like Jamie does, but I sure know that when other people prayed for us before we got here. And it's real important that we pray for others out there that are still sick and suffering. All right, so who takes us from shame to glory?
Our
If we
Father,
let him.
our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done,
It will be done
on earth as it is in the
as in
heavens.
heaven.
Give us this day
day
our daily bread,
Our daily
and
bread.
forgive us our
Forgive us our
trespasses,
trespasses,
as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power,
and the
and the
glory,
glory, forever and ever.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. Keep coming back.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.